You know, that was when I believed in Congress. I don't anymore. And it's not because I don't believe in sort of the process of government, but I don't believe in Congress anymore. I don't believe in trying to work in that particular method. But I go on thinking that there's an appropriate law that's possible that would serve for economic justice of people. The late Cold War. A man says he doesn't understand my poetry. Frankly, I'm not surprised. I learned to write in a hot desert during the Cold War. We did air raid drills in a schoolyard full of thick-skinned ornamental oranges. We saw dioramas of a fallout shelter where a mother wearing a light print house dress served TV dinners on aluminum trays to children wearing saddle shoes. The man says poetry should be simple enough for schoolgirls to understand. But, sir, schoolgirls understand everything. Nancy Drew was in love with the obstacle, not the clue. My nearsighted eyes had adjusted to reading, and by 1962, letters had developed fuzzy antennas like tarantulas or modernism. The psyche rises like mist from things, writes Heraclitus. Sir, when I think of poetry keeping you alive, I know you are entered by incomprehensible light in the hour of lemon and water, and the great wound of the world has slipped a code into your shoe. A poem doesn't fail when you set your one good wing to the ground. It is the wing, it doesn't abandon you. So I'm going to switch gears a second and read, in a fit of, I don't know, industry and also just desire to serve world poetry, I've co-translated 2 books of poems that have come out from Parlor Press. One is by a Korean poet, Jong Rae Choi, and the other is Poems from Above the Hill by Asherat Webi, and he's a Libyan poet. And he's a really wonderful, amazing modernist poet. And during the bombing of Libya and the rebellion there, we didn't hear from him for 6 months, and I was very, very worried, and just heard from him again recently, and I wanted to read a little piece of one of his poems to bring him here into the room and bring Libya's struggles into the room. This is from a long poem in many parts, and it is the title poem. Look straight out there. The land shakes with horses and thick dust. Those who came with the evening and deceived the guards laughed at the face of the sun resting on the horizon's arch. They asked about birds that left their city one day and asked about a mill race that had witnessed their weddings. You held your hands to music at the side of the road as the solitary dancer finished her dance, and from his window the child was counting fallen grapes with his fingers. What do you hear in the book of voices but your heartbeat? Look straight out there, the pale land blanketed with serenity. Bob and I were lucky enough to be invited, actually, this was a couple years ago, to be the first poets among the, C.D. Wright and Forrest Gander and Bob and I went. We were the first American poets to be invited to Libya, and we were just stunned by the beauty of the place, and we had one evening dinner with poets, and about half of the poets had been imprisoned for longer than 5 years, poets at that dinner. And now, you know, things are likely to change. I just hope they don't repeat. So I'm going to read some poems from the book that I'm working on, the Fire Book. And this is the tetralogy of books that I've been working on. The first book was Cascadia, which is why I feel wedded to the place. And then Pieces of Air in the Epic was the Air book, and then Practical Waters, the Water book, and now I'm at work on the Fire book. And so I'm going to read some poems that call up earth spirits and also try to bring in the political, but they come from a very strange, odd place in the poetic space. And the poem, the book really started with a kind of single perception. Bob and I were driving one day up in this, kind of central coast, and it was so beautiful, and I looked out at the field and I saw all the pumpkins lined up, and it was just a little bit earlier than this time of year, and I saw the pumpkins, and there were thousands of pumpkins, and I thought of all the eyes that were inside the pumpkins that were just the white seeds. They were all intense, just lined up in this internal order. To spirits of fire after harvest. Between earth and its noun, I felt a fire. What does it mean by I, Mrs.? It means, and I quote, one of the vowels in the brain and some of the U's. We were interested in the type of thing humans can't know, interested in the kinds of think animals think. An animal, a rabbit or a skink. You Mrs. Skiltonianus, when autumn brings a grammar. Wasps circle the dry stalks, and you can totally see through amber ankles, dangling in dazzle under our Lord, the Son of Literature. Between noon and its noun, there were ridged and golden runes on pumpkins, bluish gourds in the fields, their white eyes lined up inside. Wait a sec. Please don't nail the door shut. The air is friendly and non-existent as Veronica's veil. Earth, don't torment your fool, your ambassador clown. Bring the X of oxygen and sex, the fox running sideways through present noon. Grammar of this life at noon. The immortals wait in the fields, and the newt under the laurel, a dragon whose 3 heads argued with themselves. The push thistle's Celestrina echo butterfly with automatic semicolons on its wings will hide under the Clorox cloud, and that's that. Some punctuation is just too sensitive to be outside. Stubby white teeth on that baby bowl, smile on its face, creep like Gnostic Jesus. It's comma, 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 claws, claws. Verbless mosquito egg daylight. Worker, dreamer, your soul has slept with countesses so long his hands still smell like money. He says to himself, my Lord the Sun has thrown his sexual shadow upon me. Oops, where did it go? It's just fallen behind something. What has? Whatever you lost. It's just about time for the Geminid showers, the Geminids. And a couple years ago they were working on the so-called healthcare reform during the Geminids. Geminid showers and healthcare reform. Behind the galaxy there was a flute. Sound was making love to sound. Time was making sound to sexual, textual, lexical space. We worked too hard. We lay near fields from which they gathered plastics, mimics and contortionists, under the ping-ping of meteors, under made-up constellations. The planet flew through space junk while the healthcare bill was being penned, with pens from Chantix, pens from Lidoderm and Protonix, with pens from Actos, Lamisil, and Celebrex. Late autumn made a fire in us. The cosmos waited for a sign. The soul was waiting for the mind. Fat chickadees waited for sweet fennel and nameless asters on side streets from which the drones take violins to the queen. Which kind? All bees are true for thee. We slept as many as the anyway, where meaning met material, that is, inside the personal, that is, for love of earth. At solstice, a yellow fragment. Our Lord of Literature visits my love. They have gone below. They have lost their way among the tablets of the dead. Dark energy, wood rat in the pine, furred thing and the fine, a suffering among syllables, stops winter drops from cold, cold, miracle night, a fox deep in its hole, under yellow thumbs of the chanterelles. No, gold, gold thumbs, Goldman Sachs pays no tax. Baby goats in the pen, not blaming God, not blaming them. Alias, buried egg of the shallow helmet turtle. Actinimus marmorata. Alias, thanks for calling the White House comment line. For your life had stamina from a childhood among priests, and far in the night, beyond the human realm, a cry released the density of nature. After a very long, difficult day, you talk to your loved ones at night. It is a kind of modernism. Color sees into you, thinks a warm path, a tint of meaning brought from how you feel. Then you are double, the owl calls out, Taito alba in your sleep. Scrip, skr, heart-shaped face emitting loose nouns. Under its turf, the smart mouse turns, the fierce dead merge with the recently born, where earlier they emptied what you seek. How will you be known? Some registered complaints. You pass them in the hallway, their new haircuts. The bosses are known by new wars. What salmon are left hurry upstream, coal swaths in the bay. Linnets by rose fires at the edges. Linnet or finch, the word edge has wings made of E. The moon rests in its mantle of minutes, its boundaries in back of the trees. Boundaries are known by their nothings. You will be known by your dreams. And I thought I'd read a couple of poems that I've just been working on about the Occupy. Actually, I think I'll just read one of those. When the occupations have just begun, one style cannot complete the unknown. You cry before others in autumn, a nature you must repeat to live. Friends come to you, each with the other. Obdurate cliffs plunge to the sea as tears pour from your heart's intricate oddity. Acid soil meets water where the anchovies spawn. A tender enigma shines at the roots of cypresses that cling to the coast. These roots recall the unhurt. In nearby cities, humans sleep in the plazas. Rats and crows cross the fire zones to visit the assemblies, and monarchs that have lost their real estate flutter between the lending and the being lent. The violent and the peaceful turn on the wheel of night. You cry for those coming back. Your body stores prophecies for later. Your body is the archive of the world. And one day I was feeling, I have a really demanding job. I'm directing our writing program for a couple of years, and I was feeling so crabby at work, and I was trying to cope, and somebody came along and gave me a piece of advice about pretending to be in a good mood when you're not in a good mood. And I went back to my desk, which is sort of on a perch on the third floor in my building, and I saw a squirrel imitating a squirrel. So we were talking yesterday about performance poetry, and I'm very fond of the poet John Clare, and I've written what I think of as spoken bird poetry, and kind of imitation of John Clare. And this is actually a spoken squirrel poem. So imitating a squirrel at my job. When we get a little speedy at work and someone says, calm down, outside near our ears, speckle, 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 you're going to tell a squirrel that, calm down and try to be cheerful. Try to be 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 try to be. You're going to tell a fast in the skull till it shapes the cone and tornado drops its squirrel that. You're going to tell the when it nut up stands like Napoleon, paw, try to be try to be calm and cheerful, all cute, gray, fast, and craving colored. I got back to the person on that one. So I think I'll read 4 more poems, maybe 4, yeah. Bless you. And this one, we were talking yesterday about alternative actions to regular, like, activism, direct action, that might be a kind of intervention that individuals could do. And I believe that everybody can do some form of activism that is imaginative, and that poets can do it even more. And so I've been inventing my own forms of things that don't have to do with going to Congress or working on legislation, which, as I said, I'm a bit tired of. I've kind of given up on at the moment. I might go back to it, but right now I'm tired of it. And so I've been moaning at the gas pump as one of my, so when I pump gas, I do really loud, embarrassing moans, and put the nozzle in, and then just begin to moan really low, and then get it a little louder, a little louder, a little louder. So this is about that. And I started it after the BP oil spill, and I was reading an essay by Nicole Leroux, who's a really amazing French theorist, and she was writing about the relationship between a lyric poetry and music, and sort of subverting the music. Moaning action at the gas pump. Soon it will be necessary to start a behavior of moaning outdoors when pumping gas. That capital S is a sort of gas nozzle. Pulling up, beginning a low moaning action, pulling the deep choral moan through cracks, up through the body, the crude through the cracks of sea and earth, pulling neurotransmitters, glutamate, acetylcholine, and others across the chasms in the nervous system into the larynx until the sound acts by itself. So we shred the song to continue. Meaning, mourning, moaning, mourning. I'm able to complete 34 moans by the time I've filled half the tank. City-states outlawed open whaling because it was not good for democracy, but you will merely be embarrassed even if you drive a hybrid. Please be embarrassed, please. Outside the pump you can hear a bird, the screech-covered occidentalis lugged out of the Gulf with 4 million tons of used booms in the non-leakable plastic. 13 million tons of liquid and non-leakable plastic 5 miles up the road. Their 5 has a leak in it, by the way. The moan fans out as you put your head down on the hood of your car. Please moan through though the other drivers are staring. Squeak, there are other animals inside the pump, the great manatee. You've seen it float like a rug that has something wrapped in it among the grasses that will not return. E-oh. This moan won't be the same mammal, but it is a democracy with no false knowledge. The sounds pushed to the edge of a painting, globs of oil floating to the shores of salt marshes. The broadcaster says globs look like peanut butter, wanting to sound lovable so we can feel friendly about them. Meeting other moans, you ask how to get over it. Is it like Gilgamesh and Enkidu, David and Absalom, like Isis and Osiris, like Ishmael and history? Is it like Hecuba and her kids, Cassandra who did not drive? Is it like Mary, like Antigone who could barely lift the body to bury it? Probably you don't have to, probably you don't have to get over it.